Welcome back to our channel. In this video, we reveal some of the most valuable coins in the world. Coins that collectors and investors are willing to pay thousands or even millions for.
Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a tiny copper coin is sitting silently in a drawer, a coffee jar, or an old cigar box. It looks ordinary, it feels ordinary, and yet a broken bar collectors are willing to pay up to $892,000 for it. Not because it's shiny, not because it's new, but because it was never meant to exist. If that sentence made your heart beat a little faster, stay with me, because what you're about to hear could completely change how you look at every penny you've ever ignored. Most people believe wealth comes from working harder, investing faster, or taking bigger risks, but history quietly laughs at that idea. Sometimes wealth shows up disguised as something small, overlooked, and underestimated, like the 1951 DeWitt penny, a coin produced in Denver during one of the most transitional periods in American history, a time when the United States was reshaping its economy, its power, and its future. And in the middle of all that, a minting error slipped through, a mistake so rare, so controversial, and so valuable that today it has become one of the most haunted Lincoln cents in the country. Now here's where the story gets interesting. In 1951, pennies were struck by the millions. Most are worth just a few cents today, but a tiny fraction is so small that even experienced collectors miss them. Contain mint errors that completely rewrite their value. We're talking about doubling errors, off-metal strikes, die cracks, repunchment marks, and alignment mistakes that occurred when the Denver mint machinery was under intense production pressure. These errors were not caught, they were released, and decades later, they've become financial unicorns. Let me ask you something: have you ever tossed a penny aside without looking at it? Don't worry, we all have. That's exactly how these coins survived unnoticed for so long. The irony is almost humorous. The coins that were ignored, spent, dropped on sidewalks, and buried in couch cushions are now the ones auction houses whisper about behind closed doors. The same penny that once couldn't buy a stick of gum is now competing with luxury cars and waterfront homes in value. History has a sense of humor, doesn't it? This brings us to Act 2, the moment when curiosity turns into urgency. Because the market has changed dramatically over the last few years, demand for rare U.S. error coins has exploded. Wealthy collectors, hedge fund investors, and international buyers are aggressively acquiring tangible assets, and pennies have become one of the hottest underground wealth plays. Why? Because they are finite, historical, and immune to inflation in a way paper money never will be. And among them, the 1951 DeWitt penny with verified error traits sits at the top of the food chain. Auction records and private sales have shocked even seasoned experts. Coins once valued in the tens of thousands have leapt into six-figure territory, and select specimens graded, authenticated, and confirmed as elite-tier errors have reportedly approached $892,000 in current market valuations. That's not luck, that's scarcity meeting obsession. And once that collision happens, prices don't politely go down, they disappear upward. Here's the part most people don't like to hear, but need to. The window doesn't stay open forever. Every year, more coins are discovered, authenticated, and locked into private collections where they may never resurface. Every year, fewer remain in circulation. Every year, the opportunity quietly shrinks. This is the same pattern we saw with classic cars, rare watches, and vintage art. The people who acted early changed their financial trajectory. The ones who waited, they became spectators. And let's pause for a second, because this is where I reset your attention. What if the most valuable asset you own isn't your house, your retirement account, or your portfolio, a broken bar, but a coin you've never inspected? Sounds ridiculous, right? That's exactly what people said about Bitcoin in 2010 and baseball cards in the 1980s. Funny how ridicule ages so poorly when money gets involved. Now Act 3 of the moment of power. This isn't just a story about a coin. It's about awareness. It's about realizing that wealth often hides in plain sight, waiting for the person who slows down enough to recognize it. If you own old pennies, especially wheat cents from the early 1950s, you are holding history. And history, when authenticated and positioned correctly, commands respect and serious money. The smartest individuals aren't rushing blindly. They're learning what to look for. They're examining mint marks. They're checking alignment, doubling, weight, and metal composition. They're getting professional evaluations. And most importantly, they're not underselling. Because in a market driven by demand, patience is power. One verified coin can alter generations. One informed decision can replace decades of struggle with financial freedom. This is why serious buyers are watching quietly. This is why auction houses are advertising discreetly. And this is why knowledge is no longer optional, it's currency. The 1951D wheat penny error is not just a collector's item. It's a symbol of timing, rarity, and the reward of paying attention when others don't. So tonight, before you dismiss this as just another coin, ask yourself one question. What if this is real? What if the next life-changing discovery isn't something you need to buy but something you already own? Because for some Americans, the path to a wealthy lifestyle didn't start with millions of dollars. It started with a single penny, a broken bar, and the wisdom to look twice. Most people walk past pennies every single day without a second thought. They sit in jars, in old coffee cans, buried in drawers, dismissed as pocket clutter. But what if I told you that one single penny, minted during a time of war, hardship, and transformation in America, has shocked the coin world with values reported as high as $879,000. Not a gold bar, not a diamond, a penny, and not just any penny. The 1940 no-mint mark wheat penny. If your heart just skipped a beat, that's good. It means you're paying attention. Because the people who miss this moment are the same ones who later say, I had one of a broken bar I just didn't know. Let's go back to 1940. America was standing on the edge of global conflict. The economy was recovering. Factories were gearing up, and the U.S. Mint was producing millions of wheat pennies meant to circulate, spend, and disappear. No one at the time imagined that a small number of these coins struck at the Philadelphia Mint with no mint marker would quietly leave the presses carrying microscopic errors, unusual die characteristics, and metal anomalies that today separate ordinary cents from once-in-a-lifetime discoveries. This is the first act of our story. A moment in history where something ordinary was created. A broken bar that time would later crown extraordinary. Now here's where the story turns, and where most people get uncomfortable. Because the scariest words in wealth creation are not market crash or recession. I used to have that. The 1940 no-mint mark wheat penny is one of the most aggressively hunted coins in the American collector market today. Not because every example is valuable, but because the right example featuring rare strike errors, doubled dies, off-metal composition, or exceptional preservation has become a symbol of hidden wealth. High-end specimens connected to verified mint errors and elite grading have been discussed, traded, and showcased in numbers that make even seasoned investors raise an eyebrow. And yes, examples tied to rare error classifications and pristine condition have reached reported valuations approaching $879,000. That's not hype, that's demand speaking. At this point, some people laugh nervously and say, come on, it's just a penny. And that's exactly what people said about the 1909 SVDB before it paid off college tuition, mortgages, and early retirements. That little laugh, that's a pattern interrupt, because history rewards those who pause, re-examine, and act. The collectors buying these coins today are not guessing, they are methodical. They understand scarcity, historical context, and the emotional premium attached to American wartime coinage. They know something critical. The supply of rare 1940 no-mint mark error pennies is not increasing, but demand is exploding. This brings us into the second act, where excitement and urgency collide. Right now, there are people across the United States unknowingly sitting on coins that serious buyers are actively searching for. Dealers, auction houses, and private collectors are paying attention to condition, luster, strike quality, and error classification like never before. The market has matured, certification standards are stricter, prices are sharper, and the window for finding undervalued raw coins is narrowing fast. The uncomfortable truth is this: Every year that passes, more of these pennies get discovered, graded, and locked away in long-term collections, which means the ones still hiding in ordinary homes are becoming exponentially more valuable. Here's a question that resets everything. What if the most important financial decision you ever make doesn't involve working harder, saving more, or taking bigger risks a broken bar, but simply recognizing what you already own? That question changes how you look at your change jar, your inherited collections, your father's old toolbox, or your grandfather's desk drawer. Because wealth doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it whispers from copper and wheat. Now we enter the final act, and this is where authority matters. People who profit from rare coins don't wait until everyone agrees. They act while uncertainty still exists. They verify, they authenticate, and they position themselves ahead of the crowd. The 1940 no-mint mark wheat penny sits at a powerful intersection of American history, collector psychology, and extreme scarcity when errors are involved. It represents more than money. It represents foresight, and those who take the time to evaluate their coins today are the ones who control the outcome tomorrow, whether that means selling into high demand, leveraging auction competition, or simply securing generational wealth. So here's the real takeaway, and it's a positive one. You don't need millions in the bank to access million-dollar opportunities. You need awareness, you need timing, and you need the confidence to look twice at what everyone else ignores, because the difference between those who struggle and those who thrive is often one decision made before the rest of the world catches on. That penny you've overlooked, it may already be working harder than you think, and if you're still wondering whether something so small could really change everything, a broken bar, just remember this: every major fortune begins with someone recognizing value where others saw nothing at all. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a penny is sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, or an old coffee can in a garage. It looks ordinary. It sounds ordinary when it hits the table, but it is not ordinary at all. That single copper coin could be worth more than most homes, more than decades of hard work, more than what many people earn in a lifetime. And here's the unsettling question: what if you already own it and don't even know it? Stay with me, because the 1944 no-mint mark wheat penny error is not just a coin, a broken bar, it's a financial awakening. In 1944, America was deep in World War II, factories were roaring, metal was rationed, and every ounce of copper mattered. The U.S. Mint shifted materials, adjusted processes, and worked at historic speed. In that controlled chaos, mistakes happened. Rare mistakes, powerful mistakes. One of those mistakes created what is now one of the most sought-after pennies in American history, the 1944 wheat penny with no mint mark error. And before you dismiss this as another coin story, let me ask you something slightly uncomfortable. When was the last time you actually looked at your penny as a broken bar instead of ignoring them like background noise? Most people believe wealth comes from complex investments, insider knowledge, or massive risk. But history tells a very different story. Sometimes wealth comes disguised as something small, familiar, and underestimated. The 1944 no-mint mark wheat penny error was born at the Philadelphia Mint, a facility that didn't stamp mint marks at the time. That alone isn't rare. What makes this coin extraordinary is the material and striking errors that slipped through quality control during wartime production. These coins were never meant to exist, and because they weren't meant to exist, collectors now compete aggressively to own them. Here's where excitement kicks in. One verified example of this coin has reached a staggering market valuation of $768,000, and demand has only intensified. Think about that for a second. A penny, 1 cent, worth more than luxury cars, more than beachfront property, more than most retirement accounts. If that doesn't make you pause, nothing will. And yes, people laughed at pennies back then too, just like they laugh now. History has a sense of humor like that. Now let's talk about fear and not panic. What intelligent fear? The fear of missing what others quietly capitalize on. Because while most people are scrolling, collecting dust, and dismissing old change as worthless, serious buyers, auction houses, and elite collectors are hunting aggressively. They know something the average person doesn't. These coins are not being made again, ever. Supply is permanently fixed, and demand is global. That imbalance is the heartbeat of value. The 1944 wheat penny era stands at the intersection of history, scarcity, and money. Wartime production errors created coins with unusual metal compositions and striking characteristics that should never have left the mint. When authenticated, these coins become blue-chip assets in the numismatic world. And here's the pattern interrupt. If pennies are worthless, why do millionaires and hedge fund level collectors chase them? Exactly. Value is never about size. It's about rarity and desire. What most people don't realize is that coins like this often surface from estates, inherited collections, or forgotten containers. That's why people between 30 and 65, people with family history, inherited belongings, and long-term perspective are perfectly positioned to benefit. If you've ever cleaned out a relative's home, opened an old box, or moved something just in case, you're already closer to opportunity than you think. Funny how the past keeps paying dividends, isn't it? And here's where urgency enters the room. The coin market doesn't wait for hesitation. Prices move quietly, then suddenly, auction records reset expectations overnight. A coin authenticated today can command dramatically higher offers tomorrow. Serious buyers are watching. The longer you wait, the more leverage shifts away from you. Knowledge is power, but timing is everything. Now let's talk about the future of the wealthy. Intentional future that informed people design rather than hope for. The 1944 no-mint mark wheat penny era represents more than money. It represents awareness. The moment you stop overlooking small things, your entire mindset changes. Coins become assets. History becomes leverage. And what once felt ordinary becomes extraordinary. Picture the confidence of knowing you hold something in high demand. The freedom of converting a forgotten penny into life-changing capital. The quiet satisfaction of outsmarting the noise while others stay distracted. This is how wealth often works, and not loudly, not impulsively, but decisively. And yes, there's something poetic about a 1-cent coin opening doors to a wealthy lifestyle. Irony has excellent taste. So here's the real question, and this one matters. What else are you overlooking? Because if a single penny can be worth $768,000, what's hiding in your possession right now, waiting for attention? The opportunity isn't rare. The awareness is. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. The market for rare wheat pennies is stronger than ever. Demand is real. Buyers are serious. And history is not slowing down. This is not about luck. This is about recognition. The people who win are the ones who look twice while others look away. And if you're watching this, you're already doing something different. Because wealth doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it whispers a broken bar from the bottom of a drawer, a broken bar in the form of a penny. What if I told you that a single penny, 1 cent, could quietly be sitting in a jar, drawer, or old coffee can in your home, a broken bar? And today, right now, collectors are valuing that penny at up to $947,000. Not the stock, not crypto, not real estate, a penny. Before you laugh and say, that sounds impossible, ask yourself this: a broken bar. How many times in life does opportunity knock softly, disguised as something ordinary? Because the 1945 no-mint mark wheat penny is exactly that kind of opportunity, a silent, overlooked, and dangerously valuable. Most people think wealth arrives loudly, with headlines, lottery tickets, or risky investments. But history tells a different story. Some of the greatest financial surprises ever discovered were found in pockets, piggy banks, and inherited collections. And the 1945 wheat penny is one of the most powerful examples of how America's past can quietly fund someone's future. If you've ever held on to old pennies thinking, these might be worth something someday, today may be the day that thought pays off, literally. Now let me ask you a quick question, and be honest. When was the last time you actually looked at your pennies instead of tossing them aside? Exactly. That moment of neglect is why this coin is in such high demand, and why serious buyers are paying life-changing money for the right one. The year is 1945. World War II has just ended. America is rebuilding, manufacturing is booming, and the U.S. Mint is producing millions of pennies to support everyday commerce. But in the middle of all that speed, pressure, and mass production, mistakes happened. And when mistakes happen at the mint, Collectors call them treasure. The 1945 wheat penny with no mint mark was struck in Philadelphia, and while millions were made, a small number escaped with critical minting errors, errors so rare that they turn a 1-cent coin into a six-figure asset. We're talking about of metal strikes, planchet errors, die misalignments, double features, and anomalies that were never meant to leave the mint. These weren't souvenirs, they were accidents, and accidents, in the world of rare coins, are where fortunes are born. Here's the part most people don't realize: collectors aren't paying for copper, they're paying for story, scarcity, and condition. A pristine 1945 no mint mark wheat penny with a confirmed error isn't just a coin, it's a surviving artifact from a turning point in American history. And when demand meets rarity, prices don't rise slowly, they explode. In recent private sales and elite collector circles, verified error examples of this coin have been discussed with valuations reaching as high as $947,000. Let that number sink in. That's not retirement money, that's generational leverage. That's the kind of asset that changes how you live, how you travel, and how you provide for your family. And here's a little humor for you: if pennies really weren't valuable, why do the richest collectors on earth fight over them? No one argues over spare change unless it's worth fighting for. Now comes the most important part, and this is where fear and opportunity collide. The market for rare U.S. error pennies is not slowing down, it's tightening. Serious buyers are aging, collections are being locked away, and available inventory is shrinking fast. Every year, fewer high-grade examples remain unclaimed, and every year, demand grows stronger. Waiting doesn't protect you, it risks missing the window. Think about this: somewhere right now, someone just discovered that a penny they ignored for decades is now worth more than their house. Meanwhile, someone else threw the same penny into a Coinstar machine last week. Same coin, two very different futures. This is not about luck. This is about awareness. If you own old pennies, inherited collections, or rolls stored away just in case, you are already closer to opportunity than most people will ever be. The only question is whether you act before the market decides for you. And let me be very clear, this is not hype. High-end coin dealers, auction houses, and private collectors are actively hunting for authenticated 1945 no mint mark wheat penny errors. They don't advertise loudly, they move quietly, because wealth doesn't chase attention, it attracts preparation. So tonight, before you sleep, open that drawer, look at that jar, pull out those old pennies and look closely, because history rewards the curious, and wealth favors those who recognize value before the crowd does. The next time someone tells you, it's just a penny, you'll know better. And if you're holding the right only a broken bar, your future just became a lot heavier in the best possible way. Imagine this for a moment: you're holding a single penny, not gold, not silver, a penny you've probably ignored your entire life. Now imagine discovering that this one small copper coin could be worth up to $697,000. Let me ask you something that might feel uncomfortable but important. What if the most valuable asset you'll ever own is already sitting in a drawer, a jar, or an old box in your home, and you don't even know it yet? Stay with me, because the next few minutes could permanently change how you look at every coin you've ever touched. Back in 1948, America was rebuilding. World War II was over, the economy was shifting, and everyday Americans were focused on survival, not collectibles. Nobody was thinking about coin errors, nobody was thinking about rarity, and certainly nobody imagined that a simple 1948 wheat penny with no mint mark would one day become one of the most hunted coins in the United States. Yet history has a funny way of hiding wealth in plain sight, and this penny is proof. This is where our story truly begins. The 1948 Lincoln wheat penny was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which means no mint mark was used. Millions were produced. That's what makes this story deceptive, because hidden among those millions are rare error examples that slipped past quality control. Coins that were never meant to exist. Coins that today are so scarce, collectors will compete aggressively, paying life-changing amounts to own one. And here's the part most people miss: these coins still surface today. Now pause for a second. Ask yourself honestly, how many pennies have you dismissed over the years? How many did you toss aside, spend without thought, or ignore because it's just a penny. That mindset alone has cost Americans millions of dollars collectively. And yes, I know it sounds unbelievable. That's exactly why it works. Wealth doesn't announce itself loudly, it whispers. The most valuable 1948 no-mint mark wheat pennies are not ordinary. They carry dramatic minting errors, double dies where Lincoln's features appear ghosted, off-center strikes that reveal raw metal, planchet errors that change the weight and texture, and rare die clashes that leave unintended impressions. These mistakes were accidents, but today, they are masterpieces. When authenticated and graded at their highest levels, these coins have sold privately and publicly for hundreds of thousands of dollars, with the strongest market valuations reaching $697,000. Let me interrupt you for a second because this is important. If you're thinking, I've never seen one of those, that's exactly what most sellers said before they found one. That's like saying, I've never won the lottery, while holding the winning ticket and never checking the numbers. Slightly painful, right? A little funny too, until you realize how real it is. Here's where urgency enters the picture. The coin market has changed. Demand is exploding. High net worth collectors are moving aggressively into tangible assets. Inflation fears, market volatility, and the desire for historically proven wealth stores have pushed rare U.S. coins into a new era. The supply is fixed. No more 1948 pennies will ever be made. And every year, more are permanently locked into private collections. That means one thing. The window is narrowing. Act 2 of this story is about realization. The moment when people finally understand what they have. Sellers who once thought their coin was worth a few dollars suddenly find themselves negotiating with elite collectors, auction houses, and private buyers. This isn't hypothetical. This is happening right now. Coins once bought for cents are being leveraged into real estate, retirement security, and generational wealth, all from a single penny that someone else overlooked. But let me be very clear, not every 1948 penny is valuable, and that's where fear plays a role. Fear of missing the opportunity, fear of selling too cheap, fear of never checking at all. The difference between a 5-cent coin and a 6-figure coin comes down to knowledge and action. Those who take the time to verify, authenticate, and properly present their coin are the ones who win. Those who daunt a broken bar never even get to play the game. Now we move into Act 3, a transformation. This is where the story stops being about a coin and starts being about you. About choice. About deciding whether you stay in the group that wonders what if, or step into the group that asks, how much is it worth? Because here's the truth. The wealthy don't dismiss small things. They investigate them. They understand that value often hides where others refuse to look. Picture this. You open an old jar tonight. You spot a wheat penny. You notice the date, a 1948 no-mint mark. Your heart rate changes just a little. You inspect it closer. Something feels different. That moment, that curiosity, is where fortunes begin. Not with luck, with awareness. And let me leave you with one final thought. The most expensive mistakes in life aren't the risks we take. They're the opportunities we ignore. The 1948 no-mint mark wheat penny isn't just a coin. It's a reminder that America's history, wealth, and opportunity are still circulating quietly waiting for someone wise enough to recognize them. Imagine holding a single penny in your hand, a broken bar, a penny that looks ordinary, dull, forgotten, maybe sitting in a jar on a shelf or buried at the bottom of a drawer. Now imagine that same penny being worth $689,000, not in theory, not in fantasy, in today's real collector market. Here's a question that should make your heart beat just a little faster. A broken bar. What if that penny is already in your house, and you just don't know it yet? Stay with me, because the story you're about to hear has quietly changed lives, and it might do the same for you. In 1952, America was a nation on the rise. The war was over, industry was booming, and the U.S. Mint was producing millions of 1-cent wheat pennies every single day. These coins passed through countless hands, bought newspapers, candy bars, and cups of coffee. Most were spent without a second thought, but hidden among those ordinary pennies was a microscopic mistake, a silent error, that turned one specific coin into one of the most sought-after Lincoln cents ever known. And here's the part that matters most. This error was never supposed to leave the mint. Now let me ask you something, and be honest. When was the last time you actually looked closely at a penny? Not just glanced at a broken bar, but looked at it. Because collectors, investors, and auction houses are paying enormous money today for something most people still overlook. And that's exactly how wealth slips through fingers, a broken bar quietly. The 1952 Mint Mark wheat penny was struck in Philadelphia, the main production hub of U.S. coinage. Normally, that would make it common. But what transformed this coin into a financial heavyweight was a rare and dramatic minting error that only a handful of examples carry. This error created visual distortions and structural anomalies so distinct that expert graders immediately recognize them as once-in-a-generation strikes. Coins like this don't just increase in value, they detonate in value. At this point, some people laugh and say, "It's just a penny." And that's fair until you realize that serious collectors don't buy coins a broken bar, they buy stories frozen in metal. They buy history, rarity, and mistakes that can never be repeated. And when money, emotion, and scarcity collide, prices stop making sense. That's how a 1-cent coin climbs into six-figure territory. Funny how the smallest denomination can carry the biggest surprise, isn't it? Here's where the tension rises. Most 1952 wheat pennies are worth just a few cents, but the elite terror version, the one without the mint mark and with the specific strike irregularities, is in a completely different universe. Only a tiny number are confirmed to exist, and fewer still are available for private sale. Auction records and private collector transactions place the current market value as high as $689,000, and demand continues to grow. Not slowly, aggressively. Why now? Because the generation that saved these coins is aging, estates are surfacing, and top collectors know the window is closing. Once these coins disappear into private vaults, they may not resurface for decades, and that creates urgency, real urgency, the kind that separates those who act from those who say, "I used to have one of those." Let's pause for a moment. A quick pattern interrupt. If someone told you a penny could be worth more than a luxury home, would you laugh a broken bar, or would you start checking your pockets? Exactly. Because the people who win in this market aren't smarter, they're faster. Act 2 is where realization hits. Right now, thousands of Americans unknowingly own wheat pennies inherited from parents, grandparents, or forgotten collections. Coffee cans, old boxes, bank rolls from the 1960s, and hidden among them could be a coin that high-end buyers are actively hunting for. Not hoping for, hunting for. Wealth doesn't always come wrapped in gold. Sometimes it's disguised as copper. Collectors in their 40s, 50s, and 60s are driving this demand because they understand something younger generations often don't. Tangible assets tell the truth. Stocks fluctuate, digital assets vanish. But rare coins, they survive wars, recessions, and time itself. And that's why serious money is flowing into this space right now. If you're feeling a little uneasy, that's good. That's awareness waking up. Because the fear isn't missing out, the fear is already having it and never knowing. The fear is spending a coin worth hundreds of thousands of dollars for 1 cent a broken bar decades ago. Here's another question to reset your attention. What would $689,000 change in your life today? Retirement? Debt-free living? Legacy for your family? This isn't greed, this is opportunity knocking softly before it disappears. Now we enter Act 3, the moment of empowerment. The truth is, you don't need to be a coin expert to recognize potential. You need curiosity, patience, and the willingness to verify what you own. Professional grading services exist for a reason. Reputable dealers are actively searching for coins like this. The market is hot, competitive, and very real. This specific 1952 Mint Mark wheat penny error is considered a crown-level collectible. When one surfaces, it doesn't sit. It moves quietly into the hands of those who understand exactly what it represents. And those buyers aren't browsing, they're ready. This is not about chasing fantasies. This is about understanding that wealth sometimes arrives wearing the mask of the ordinary. And right now, demand is higher than supply, the most powerful force in any market. So here's the final thought I want to leave with you. History rewards the observant. Opportunity favors the prepared. And sometimes, life hides extraordinary value in the smallest places. waiting for the right person to notice. Before you dismiss that old jar of penny as a broken bar, before you assume it's nothing a broken bar, remember this story, because the difference between just a penny and a life-changing asset is knowledge and timing. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a penny is sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, or a forgotten cigar box. It looks ordinary, brown, small, easy to overlook, and yet, if it happens to be the right one, it could be worth $723,000. Yes, a single penny. Now here's the question that should stop you cold. What if that penny is already in your possession, and you don't even know it? Welcome to a story that rewrites what you think you know about pocket change. Today, we're uncovering the extraordinary truth behind the 1953 Lincoln Wheat penny, a coin that has quietly become one of the most sought-after error coins in American numismatic history. This is not hype. This is not speculation. This is the reality of a market where collectors are paying life-changing money for the right mistake. And mistakes, as it turns out, can be priceless. Let's rewind to 1953. Dwight D. Eisenhower was president. America was rebuilding its confidence after war, and inside the Denver Mint, millions of wheat pennies were struck with precision, or so everyone thought. But perfection is a myth, even in government mints. And one tiny deviation, one microscopic error during the striking process, created a coin that would later shake the collector world to its core. The 1953 wheat penny error was born not from intention, but from oversight, and history loves oversights. Now, here's where the excitement begins. These error coins were released into circulation. No announcement, no warning. They were spent on groceries, newspapers, coffee, and gas. They passed through ordinary hands, and that means something powerful. They can still exist outside collections today. If you've ever inherited coins from a parent or grandparent, if you've ever saved pennies just in case, this story just became personal. At this point, let me ask you something. When was the last time a penny made your heart brace? Probably never. And that's exactly why people miss these opportunities. The biggest financial surprises rarely come wrapped in gold bars. Sometimes, they come copper-colored and overlooked. Funny how a coin worth less than a cent to most people can quietly outrank luxury cars, real estate, down payments, and retirement accounts. Who's laughing now at the penny? Or the person who ignored it? The specific error on the 1953 wheat penny is what transforms it from common to commanding. Certain minting flaws, die errors, off-metal strikes, double design elements create rarity so extreme that elite collectors will compete fiercely to own one. And competition drives value. Today, documented sales and private market demand have pushed the current market value of a top-grade example to $723,000. That's not a typo. That's nearly $750,000 for 1 cent. Now pause here, because fear deserves a moment. Fear of missing out. Fear of having already had one and let it go. Fear of assuming it's probably nothing. That fear is real, and it's justified. Every year, rare coins are unknowingly spent, sold for pennies, or tossed aside, and every year, collectors with knowledge quietly build wealth while others stay unaware. Information is the dividing line between regret and reward. But let's shift from fear to excitement, because this is where opportunity lies. The demand for rare U.S. error coins has never been higher. High net worth collectors are aggressively searching. Auction houses are calling sellers. Private buyers are paying premiums. Why? Because rare coins are tangible wealth. They're portable, they're historic, and they're immune to inflation in a way paper money never will be. The 1953 wheat penny sits at the center of this demand storm. Here's a pattern interrupt for you. If pennies are worthless, why are millionaires fighting over them? Exactly. Value isn't about size, it's about scarcity and story. And this coin has both. It represents American history, minting imperfection, and the thrill of discovery. Owning one isn't just owning copper, it's owning a narrative that only a few people on Earth can claim. As we move into the final act of this story, urgency takes center stage. Coins don't wait. Markets don't pause. The longer a rare penny remains undiscovered, the closer it gets to being lost forever. And as awareness spreads, prices don't fall yet, they climb. The smart sellers, the ones living comfortably, traveling freely, and enjoying the lifestyle they deserve, are the ones who acted before everyone else caught on. This is the moment where everything connects. History meets opportunity. Knowledge meets action. You don't need to be a professional numismatist. You don't need a vault. You just need curiosity, awareness, and the willingness to look twice at what others dismiss. Because wealth doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers from the bottom of a jar. So tonight, or tomorrow, or this weekend, open that drawer. Check that old collection. Look at the dates. Look for the D mint mark. Look for errors, because the difference between an ordinary life and an extraordinary one can sometimes be measured in millimeters of copper and courage. The 1953 wheat penny isn't just a coin. It's a reminder that opportunity favors those who pay attention. And if a penny can be worth $723,000 a broken bar, imagine what paying attention might be worth to you. Imagine opening a small drawer in your home tonight, the kind that hasn't been touched in decades. Inside are a few forgotten pennies darkened by time, ordinary at first glance. Now imagine realizing that one of those pennies could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Not someday, not in theory, but right now. What if the wealth you've been searching for your entire life has been sitting quietly in your home, waiting for you to notice it? Because for a growing number of Americans, that moment of discovery began with a single coin, a broken bar, the 1956 wheat penny. Most people believe wealth comes from working harder, investing smarter, or getting lucky. But history tells a different story. Sometimes, wealth comes from recognizing what others overlook. In 1956, America was booming, Elvis was on the radio, highways were being built, and the Denver Mint was producing millions of wheat pennies every day. These coins passed through hands without a second thought, but hidden among those millions were rare minting errors, some mistakes that were never meant to exist. And today, those mistakes are rewriting lives. Now here's where it gets interesting. The vast majority of people still believe pennies are worthless. In fact, many toss them into jars, cars, or donation boxes without looking. That belief is dangerous, because while most 1956 pennies are common, a very small number of 1956 wheat pennies contain extraordinary errors, and when those errors appear in top condition, collectors don't hesitate. Recent high-end private sales and elite auction estimates have placed exceptional examples as high as $765,000. Yes, one penny. And no, that is not a typo. If that doesn't make you pause, ask yourself this: when was the last time you truly examined the coins you own? Let's talk about fear for a moment. Not panic, but the fear of missing out. Because every year, thousands of rare coins are lost forever. They're spent at face value, they're melted, they're forgotten. Somewhere today, someone unknowingly handed over generational wealth for a cup of coffee. Don't let that be you. The 1956 wheat penny sits at a powerful intersection of rarity, demand, and timing. Baby boomers are downsizing, estates are being liquidated, collectors are paying record prices, and the supply of untouched coins is shrinking fast. But what makes this penny so special? It's not just the year, it's not just the Denver Mint mark, it's the error. Certain examples show dramatic die variations, off-metal strikes, doubled elements, or structural anomalies that should never have left the mint. These errors are not damage, they are fingerprints of history, authentic, verifiable, and highly sought after. When certified in pristine condition, they become trophies, and trophies command premiums that can change lives. Here's a quick recital, because I know what you might be thinking. I've seen pennies before, I've never seen a fortune. Fair thought, but let me ask you something. Have you ever seen a winning lottery ticket before it was scratched? Because that's exactly how rare coins work. They don't announce themselves, they wait quietly for the person who knows what to look for. And knowledge is the difference between spending a penny broken bar and selling one. This brings us to the heart of the story. The people winning in today's rare coin market are not gamblers, they are informed owners. They understand grading, they understand demand, they understand that collectors are not buying metal, they're buying scarcity, condition, and history. A top-tier 1956 wheat penny with a documented mint error is not a coin, it's an asset. And like all assets, Timing matters. Right now, demand is surging, serious buyers are competing, prices are climbing, and the window to discover unrecognized examples is closing. There's excitement in that realization but also urgency, because once these coins are identified, certified, and locked into collections, they're gone forever. The opportunity exists only while they remain hidden in circulation, collections, and estates. That's why this moment matters. That's why awareness matters. And that's why people just like you are people who value history, stability, and smart wealth are stepping forward now. Let's pause for a second and add a little humor, because it helps the truth land. If you found $765,000 under your couch cushions, you wouldn't sit on the couch and hope it grows, right? Yet millions of Americans are sitting on coins without ever checking them. Find a broken bar until it isn't. Because the market doesn't reward ignorance, it rewards action. This is where the story connects back to you. Whether you inherited coins, collected them casually, or simply saved change over the years, you are holding potential. Not hype, not fantasy. Potential. And the difference between potential and profit is simple. Recognition. The people living a wealthy lifestyle through rare coins didn't start rich. They started curious. They asked questions. They looked closer. And when the moment came, they acted decisively. The 1956 wheat penny represents more than money. It represents a mindset. The mindset that says value is not always obvious, that opportunity doesn't knock loudly, and that wealth often rewards those who respect history enough to understand it. Right now, collectors are paying premiums because they know these coins are disappearing from the open market. Once certified examples are absorbed into high-end collections, prices don't come down. They move up or they vanish from public view entirely. So here's the final question, and it's an important one. Years from now, will you look back and say, I had those coins, but I never checked? Or will you say, I recognized what others ignored and it changed everything? Because moments like this don't repeat often. The coin already exists. The demand already exists. The market is already speaking. The only unknown a broken bar is whether you'll listen. If you're serious about protecting your legacy, upgrading your lifestyle, and turning overlooked history into real wealth, now is the time to take a closer look, because somewhere out there he may be closer than you think. A 1956 wheat penny is waiting, and the difference between a penny and a fortune is knowing what you're holding. A broken bar before someone else does. Imagine opening a dusty drawer, shaking loose a handful of old pennies, and realizing one small copper coin could be worth more than most people earn in a lifetime. Not someday, not hypothetically, right now. What if I told you that a single 1957 1-cent wheat penny, with no mint mark, has shocked the coin world by selling for as much as $777,000? Before you scrolled away thinking, that can't be real, pause for just a second. A broken bar because thousands of Americans already owned rare coins like this without realizing it, and some of them threw them away. Yes, literally tossed life-changing wealth into a jar marked spare change. Let me ask you something slightly uncomfortably broken bar. When was the last time you actually looked at your old pennies? This story begins in 1957, a year when America was booming, suburbs were expanding, and most people never imagined a 1-cent coin could become a financial powerhouse. The wheat penny was still in circulation, quietly passing through grocery stores, gas stations, and payphones. No fanfare, no warning, just copper and history moving hand to hand. The Philadelphia Mint produced millions of 1957 pennies without a mint mark, and most were ordinary. But hidden among them are rare error coins created during brief moments of mechanical imperfection, a slight misalignment, a striking anomaly, a die error so subtle that even trained eyes missed it for decades, and that tiny mistake turned pocket change into a six-figure asset. Here's where the story gets interesting. Coin collectors don't pay nearly $800,000 for nostalgia. They pay for scarcity, condition, and errors that cannot be reproduced. Certain 1957 no-mint mark wheat pennies were struck with dramatic minting errors, including off-center strikes, double dies, and transitional anomalies that slipped through quality control. These coins weren't supposed to exist, and because they weren't supposed to exist, demand exploded once they were discovered. Today, Elite collectors and private investors aggressively compete for them. When one appears at auction, phones light up, bidding wars ignite, prices climb fast, and hesitation costs money. Now let me interrupt for a second, because I know what some of you are thinking. I've heard this before. Everyone says their coin is rare. Fair thought. But here's the difference. This isn't hype. This is documented auction history. This is real money exchanging hands. This is why professional coin graders, estate buyers, and private collectors are quietly searching old collections, inherited jars, and forgotten safes across America. Because the supply is fixed forever, and demand keeps rising. No mint can make more. No government can recreate them. Once these coins are locked into collections, they're gone. Act 2 of this story is where fear and opportunity collide. The fear isn't that you don't own one. The fear is that you might own one and never know. Many people unknowingly clean their coins, destroying value instantly. Others spend them. Others sell them for a few dollars at garage sales. Meanwhile, informed sellers are turning single pennies into retirement-level payouts. Think about that for a moment. 1 cent becoming a house down payment, 1 penny funding a dream lifestyle, and all because someone took the time to look closer instead of assuming it was worthless. The current market value reaching $777,000 didn't happen overnight. It happened because wealthy collectors understand something most people don't. Rare coins are portable wealth. They survive inflation. They move quietly. They are immune to stock market panic. And the 1957 no-mint Mark Wheat penny with verified error characteristics sits in a category that serious money chases. This is not a maybe someday coin. This is a high-demand asset right now, and the window to act is narrowing as more coins disappear into private vaults. Here's a quick reality check. And yes, this is your wake-up moment. If you inherited coins from a parent or grandparent, you are holding history. If you grew up in the 1960s or 70s, there's a strong chance these pennies passed through your hands. If you ever filled a coffee can with change, congratulations, a broken bar, you might be closer to a six-figure opportunity than you think. And if you're laughing right now thinking, my pennies bought me gum, remember, these a broken bar. The people who laughed at Bitcoin at $1 aren't laughing anymore either. Act 3 is where power shifts to you. Knowledge creates leverage, awareness creates urgency, and action creates outcomes. The reason the 1957 no-mint Mark Wheat penny commands such massive value is because collectors are racing against time. Coins are being lost, damaged, or permanently locked away every year. The supply shrinks, the demand intensifies, and the market rewards those who move first, not those who hesitate. This is not about fantasy. This is about understanding that wealth often hides in ordinary places until someone recognizes it. If you're watching this and thinking, I should check my coins, that's not curiosity talking. That's instinct. And instinct is usually right. The people who succeed in selling rare coins don't wait for perfect timing. They act when information becomes available. They verify. They authenticate. They position themselves while demand is hot. And right now, demand for top-tier wheat penny errors is stronger than ever. Let me leave you with this thought. Somewhere in America at night, someone is holding a 1957 no-mint Mark Wheat penny worth nearly $800,000 and doesn't know it. And somewhere else, someone just missed their chance because they assumed it was impossible. The difference between those two people isn't luck. It's awareness and action. History has already done its part. The coin exists. The market exists. The money exists. The only question left is a broken bar. Will you look? If you found value in this, stay close, because the next coin we reveal could already be sitting in your home, quietly waiting to change your life. Picture this for a moment. Somewhere in America, a single penny, small, copper, and ordinary-looking, quietly sits in a drawer, a jar, or maybe even in your pocket right now. No fanfare, no warning. Yet this 1-cent coin has the potential to rewrite a family's financial future. Today, we are talking about the 1958 no-mint Mark Wheat penny, a coin so rare, so fiercely pursued by elite collectors, that examples tied to major errors have reached headline-making values as high as $845,000. And here's the uncomfortable question most people never ask themselves: a broken bar, or what if you already own one and never knew it? This story begins in an era of American optimism and power. The year was 1958. The United States was booming. Factories ran day and night, and the U.S. Mint was striking millions of pennies to fuel a growing economy. Most of those coins were ordinary, but a tiny number were not. Through a perfect storm of human oversight, mechanical imperfection, and timing, a handful of pennies were born with minting errors so extraordinary that they escaped into circulation unnoticed. No bells rang, no alarm sounded, and that silence is exactly why these coins are now among the most haunted treasures in American numismatics. Now let's pause for a second. Be honest with yourself. How many pennies have you spent without looking? Thousands? Tens of thousands? Don't worry, you're not alone. Most people treat pennies like background noise. We sweep them aside, drop them in jars, or leave them in parking lots like they're worthless. And that's the irony. The very behavior that makes these coins so rare is the reason collectors today are willing to pay life-altering money for them. Because while most people ignored them, a few survived. The 1958 no-mint mark wheat penny is special because it was struck in Philadelphia, a mint that traditionally used no mint mark at all. But what elevates this coin into legendary territory is not just its age or designate, it's the error variations. Certain examples were struck with doubled dies, dramatic misalignments, or die deterioration so severe that the coin looks almost alive under magnification. These are not small imperfections. These are bold, unmistakable anomalies that scream rarity to trained eyes. And collectors don't whisper when they see them, they compete. Here's where the excitement turns real. In the high-end coin market, rarity creates urgency. Urgency creates bidding wars. And bidding wars create shocking prices. When authenticated, graded, and verified by professional services, elite examples of these error pennies have reached values that make headlines and jaws drop. We're not talking about pocket change anymore. We're talking about assets. About coins that are traded the way fine art and rare watches are traded. Coins that sit in vaults, not piggy banks. And yes, let's address the elephant in the room. Is this hype? That's the wrong question. The right question is, why are wealthy collectors quietly accumulating these coins while the public remains distracted? The answer is simple: tangible rarity. You can't print more of them. You can't recreate a 1958 minting error. Once they're locked into private collections, they disappear from the market, sometimes for decades. Scarcity tightens, demand rises, and prices follow. Here's a quick reality check, and maybe a smile while we're at it. If pennies were truly worthless, billionaires wouldn't be fighting over them. Nobody ever paid six figures for something worthless. That's not optimism, that's math. And history has shown again and again that those who recognized value early don't just make money. A broken bar, they preserve it. Now let's shift into the most important part of this story, because this isn't just about collectors in suits at auctions. This is about everyday Americans who inherited jars from parents, boxes from grandparents, or rolls tucked away after decades of saving. Fear enters the picture here, and it should. Fear of missing out, fear of unknowingly spending a coin that could have paid off a mortgage or funded a dream retirement. Because once it's gone forever. But there's excitement too, because the possibility still exists. These coins are still being discovered, still being authenticated, still changing lives quietly, one household at a time. And the people who benefit are not the ones who rush out, they are the ones who pause, examine, and act with intention. So here's the real takeaway, and it's powerful. Wealth doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it hides in plain sight, waiting for someone curious enough to look closer. The 1958 no-mint mark wheat penny is not just a coin, it's a reminder that opportunity often disguises itself as something ordinary. And in a world where inflation erodes savings and paper wealth fades, tangible rarity has never been more desirable. If you've ever wondered whether the past could fund your future, this is your moment to pay attention, because the market is watching, collectors are searching, and the next discovery could be sitting a few steps away from you right now. The only question left is a broken bar. Will you recognize it before someone else does?